Picture New York City in the 1970s. A grimy, electric playground of rebellion, creativity, and about 1 million places where you could get mugged. This was the crucible where two of the most revolutionary music genres, punk and rap, exploded into existence. Both were born out of the same urban chaos, forged in the fires of economic struggle and cultural identity, and yet they seemed like polar opposites at first glance. Punk was all about nihilistic white kids thrashing against the establishment with guitars that sounded like a dumpster rolling downhill. Rap was the voice of the Bronx, black and Hispanic youth turning turntables and rhymes into a literal movement. But here's the kicker. These two genres didn't just coexist. They eventually collided, and the result was like dropping a Mentos into a Diet Coke bottle. Chaotic, explosive, and impossible to ignore. Rap began in the Bronx, where block parties were less about barbecues and more about transforming a concrete jungle into a dance floor. DJs like Kool Herc didn't just play records, they manipulated them, isolating the breaks that made people lose their minds on the floor. This was the birth of a new sound, with turntables becoming an instrument and MCs hyping the crowd with improvised rhymes. What emerged wasn't just music, it was a communal voice, a way for marginalised youth to turn their struggles into poetry set to a beat. Rap was the sound of survival in a crumbling city, with its roots planted firmly in the fertile soil of funk, blues and jazz, a legacy of resistance and creativity. Meanwhile, downtown Manhattan was where punk clawed its way into existence. At CBGB, a gloriously filthy club that smelled like a sewer and birthed a movement, bands like the Ramones, Blondie, and Talking Heads stripped rock down to its raw essentials. Punk wasn't just music, it was a manifesto, a middle finger to disco, hippies, and anything resembling mainstream culture. With 3 chords, a sneer, and lyrics about boredom, alienation, and rage, punk gave disaffected kids a reason to scream into the void. It was the ultimate DIY movement. Don't know how to play guitar? Who cares? Don't have a record deal? Start your own label. Punk wasn't about polish, it was about passion. These two worlds, one built on beats and rhymes, the other on distortion and sneers, might have seemed worlds apart, but they were really just a few subway stops away. The first sparks of crossover came with Blondie's Rapture in 1981, where Debbie Harry rapped over a funky beat, giving mainstream audiences a taste of what was bubbling in the Bronx. Soon, acts like the Beastie Boys emerged, a true hybrid of punk's chaos and rap's swagger. They mashed up guitars, beats and lyrics like they were making a sandwich out of whatever was in the fridge, and it was delicious. Suddenly punk kids were bopping to rap, and b-boys were breakdancing to punk riffs. It wasn't just a cultural collision, it was a full-blown fusion. So why did punk and rap both come out of New York? Because NYC was a pressure cooker of grit, diversity and frustration, with art as the only release valve. The city gave these genres the raw materials they needed. People packed together from every background, a collapsing economy, and an unshakable need to be heard. Punk and rap were two sides of the same rebellious coin, each giving a voice to the voiceless in their own way. When they finally crossed paths, they proved that even in a city that's always tearing itself apart, creation can come from destruction. Together, they tore down musical boundaries and built something entirely new, louder, raw, and more alive than anyone could have imagined.